laugh like hell. Let's have some fun doing it. That's a big part of it. But let's just don't waste any time or energy. It's all about winning. Please reflect that each and every day.
It's week number 10 of this National Football League season, and this is the Mike McCarthy Show, powered by Reliant Energy. Bill Jones inside the Academy Sports and Outdoor Studios here at the Star in Frisco, joined as usual by Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy inside Ford Center. Of course, it is the bye week for the Cowboys, and it's been an unusual week to say the least. Coach, we'll get into more on that here in just a little bit, but let's take up where you left off last week against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Some challenging circumstances here the first half of the season through the first 9 games, but I think you have to like the fight of your team here the last couple of weeks, especially against the Steelers on Sunday. Yes,
definitely. I really like the fight of our football team the last 2 weeks. You know, we have a play style and identity that we want to play to. We definitely hit the target there. Just the 2 negatives. You know, we had the the penalties there in the fourth quarter and the giveaways. So, but overall, there's a lot of really good video of our players doing it the right way. You know, playing off of one another. You know, not thinking about what they're doing. So it was great to take that step. But at the end of the day, you need to win those close games. I mean, those are the games that propel you, into the type of season you want to have. So disappointed in the outcome, but definitely like the way we started. Just the preparation leading into that, you could see it from the get-go. You know, we played very well in all 3 phases, and just our mistakes were critical errors, and they factored in the outcome. How about the play of Garrett Gilbert? Here's a guy that you've been familiar with since his days at Lake Travis High School more than a decade ago when he was winning state championships there, making his first NFL start with just basically 3 days of practice with the first-team offense. Definitely. I'm very proud of Garrett. I was excited for him, not only professionally but personally, just you watch a young man and what he's been able to accomplish and to get his first start in that type of game. So, well, I tell you, he really played well. He did a great job managing the game. We had a real challenge as far as the run plan, just the way they were overloading the run game, just trying to force us into a passing game. So he managed that very well, and was able to get Zeke and Tony into some good looks, and it was productive in the passing game. So I thought he did. I mean, I thought he played well enough for us to win. And, of course, Andy Dalton has been on COVID-19 reserve, has been in concussion protocol. As he gets back, how do you view your quarterback situation? Well, definitely. I mean, I think, stating the obvious with Andy's experience, he's been here since the first day of training camp. So, really it's no different than Garrett's opportunity. Garrett was the most experienced player, the most experienced quarterback we had in the room, and and to see what he did on 3 weeks of being on our roster in 1 week with the number 1 reps was very impressive. So, but Andy has a ton of reps and experience that we're gonna go with when he gets back. Well, I want to ask you. You touched on the run game a little bit, and the mix of the run and the pass. Despite what the Steelers were doing defensively, you had some success running the football. How are you seeing that offensive line that has been makeshift through the first 9 games of the season coming together now? I mean, clearly it's the number 1 position for being under duress, without a doubt. I mean, we continue to have lineup change after lineup change, and just when you think you've seen it all, we had a lineup change, right after the national anthem. So I really like the way those guys battle. I thought Joe Looney jumping in there, kept the communication, and the center exchange was really clean. I think, which says a lot, because really Garrett and Joe haven't worked a tremendous amount together. So we were up against a tremendous defensive front that's playing very well, and I thought our guys battled well. All right, we're just getting started on this edition of the Mike McCarthy Show. Up next, it's David Moore of the Dallas Morning News.
The Mike McCarthy Show, presented by Reliant, is brought to you by AT&T. Ford. Visit your local Ford dealer. Built for Texas, built for you. The University of North Texas, proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys. Miller Lite, the only beer of the Cowboys. And by Reliant, an NRG company. This segment is brought to you by the Dallas Morning News. Nobody does sports like Sports Day. Your home for complete Dallas Cowboys coverage.
Welcome back to the Mike McCarthy Show, powered by Reliant Energy. Bill Jones inside the Academy Sports and Outdoors studios, now joined by David Moore of the Dallas Morning News inside the SportsDayDFW.com studimes, his own personal studio. Hello, David.
And let me
ask,
more of a closet than a studio, it appears.
Let me start with this with you, David. A game against the Steelers in which the Cowboys take them right down to the final play. What can this Cowboys team take out of that game that might set them up for the last 7 games of this season?
Well, you know, so often I'm sure a lot of people out there have heard the phrase "path to victory" here during this election season in the last week and a half. You know, I don't think there were a lot of paths to victory that looked good for the Cowboys going into that game. They weren't playing that well, 3-game losing streak. I understand they lost this game, but I think what this game did, I think it gave the players confidence, and I think it gives the fans hope that in the final 7 games of this season, if they continue to play that way, you can see some paths to victory for the Cowboys in these final 7 games. You can see them playing well enough now defensively and in special teams that they're going to be in games. They'll be right there, and certainly the competition level won't be as high as it was against Pittsburgh. So this is no guarantees, but if they can carry the performance they had against Pittsburgh into those final 7 games with some consistency, they're going to be able to win a few of those games that they haven't been able to win here in the last month since they lost Dak Prescott.
And when you look at the schedule, 2 games in 5 days, Minnesota, followed by Washington on Thanksgiving. And then a week after that, Baltimore. That's 3 games in 12 days. In order for them to sustain any confidence that they gained against Pittsburgh, they got to keep doing it right off the bat with these games.
Yeah, I'll say especially those first 2. Like you say, you have a bye week, so you're going to get to rest. Well, a lot of times you focus on the physical aspect of the rest, which is important, especially this late in the season. Don't minimize the mental aspect either. Just a chance to kind of get away for a few days, relax mentally, decompress until you have to focus and get back to it. But yeah, after this, once they get back from the bye next week, go right on the road against Minnesota, then come back home for the Thanksgiving Day game against Washington. They have to at least get a split out of that, I think, to say that there was a carryover effect from the Pittsburgh game. Like you said, then you had Baltimore. Then the rest of the way, the schedule is pretty soft. I say that understanding that right now they are at 2-7, but there are some teams with comparable records. You know, they face 3 more teams that have only won 2 games at this point as well. So the schedule does soften up for them. And, you know, as they say, it's been trending at least in the right direction. Each of their losses, of these 4 losses, has been closer than the previous week's loss. So they're showing slow incremental improvement, and they're at the point where I think they're ready to break through. But you actually have to break through, and the time to do that would be in the 2 games in 5 days coming out of the bye.
All right, David, enjoy your weekend off, and I know that you have the confidence that you will be able to finish the season strong over the final 7 games of the season. David Moore of the Dallas Morning News.
I have the confidence I will relax during the bye week.
There you go. We have utmost confidence in that. Up next here on the Mike McCarthy Show, the culture that is being built by Mike McCarthy. We explore that when we come back.
This segment was brought to you by the Dallas Morning News. Nobody does sports like Sports Day. Your home for complete Dallas Cowboys coverage.
The Mike McCarthy Show, powered by Reliant Energy, continues now as it is the bye week for the Cowboys. They'll take on the Minnesota Vikings on the road next week. Rob Phillips here now to take a look at the culture that is being established by Mike McCarthy in his first year here in Dallas.
Steelers 24, Cowboys 19. Valiant effort, but not a victory. There's a fine line between those two.
There's no more victories here. You know what I mean? We're still here to win football games, and we got to figure out ways to win football games, and we got to get back to the lab and get better.
It's certainly not a win in the standings, but maybe it was a win for the program that Mike McCarthy is building in Dallas. Last Sunday was a step in the right direction, despite the final score. McCarthy admits he's never had a season quite like this one, with so many changes to lineups and schedules day to day, week to week. The injuries are one thing. The COVID-19 pandemic is totally unprecedented. It shortened training camp and wiped out preseason play altogether. It's no excuse. It's a reality that all teams have had to learn to accept. The foundation for year one of the McCarthy era? Learning to play through that adversity. That part McCarthy is familiar with. In 2006, his first season in Green Bay, the Packers started 1-4. They finished 8-8. They went to the playoffs 9 of the next 10 seasons, with a Super Bowl title mixed in between. So yes, Steelers 24, Cowboys 19. But with new staffs, new schemes, down to their fourth quarterback, the Cowboys did go toe-to-toe with the best team in football. That's a program-building moment for McCarthy.
We haven't had the start that we all envisioned, but it's still right there in front of us. And I think, more importantly, we're building a culture here, and it's up to the older guys to keep everyone locked in and just show how important each one of these games is week to week. And that falls on our shoulders as older players and veterans and leaders of this team to, when stuff's not going good and everyone's against you, can you be the same guy every day and come to work and prepare the right way?
The next step for Mike McCarthy's program, stop the turnovers. Cowboys still rank last in turnover differential during this bye week at -13. Had 2 more turnovers against Pittsburgh that led to 6 Steelers points, and the Cowboys lost the game by 5. For DallasCowboys.com, I'm Rob Phillips.
All right, thanks, Rob. Up next here on the Mike McCarthy Show, the Coach rejoins us, and we take a look at exactly what went into that C.J. Goodwin 73-yard punt return against the Steelers. The Mike McCarthy Show, powered by Reliant Energy, continues now. Bill Jones inside the Academy Sports and Outdoor Studios here at the Star, rejoined by head coach Mike McCarthy. And, Coach, let's talk about your defense here. Of course, injuries have been an issue on both sides of the ball for you. And this past week, we learned about Trayvon Diggs as he has the broken bone in his foot. He had been playing so well, and I think it probably says a lot about him. He tried to play through that injury there in the fourth quarter against the Steelers last Sunday.
Oh, Trayvon's he's a tough young man. He's played through a number of things so far this year and tried to play through that. And just the fact that, when he was unable to go, my heart sank because I assumed it was serious. So he's going to be out for a number of weeks. But what an impact he's made. Really from the first day he stepped on the field in training camp. I mean, he's really taken control of the position, and his ability to go get the football is unique, and he's played a lot of great football for us.
You look back at that game against the Steelers, and the run defense was very impressive against Pittsburgh. In fact, really starting about the 6-minute mark of the second quarter until the final couple of minutes of the game, the Steelers abandoned the run. There were 42 plays run, and only 2 of them were run plays by the Steelers in that game. How about the fourth down stop, and not only stopping them on 3rd and 1, but also 4th and 1? The defense came to play as far as the run defense is concerned against that Steelers team.
Oh, no, absolutely. I mean, those 2 plays right there tells the whole story. I mean, just when you think the game's coming to an end, these guys, they just keep going. And we were able to save enough time for us to really put ourselves in position to take a crack at the end zone on the last play. So it starts with that defensive stop. I mean, just both the 3rd and 1 and the 4th and 1 are excellent plays by our defense, and I think it's a true illustration of the fight of this football team.
Yeah, not only at the end of the game, but also in the early part of the game as well. Neville Gallimore, I asked you about him a couple of weeks ago after he got his first extended time. He was going up against an offensive line that, as you described last week, might be the best in the league, and he made some impact plays in that game.
Absolutely. I tell you, I mean, just to see him, penetrate and play the technique, and he had hit a number of impact plays in the game. So he took a big step as a young man, and hopefully we can build off that, coming out of the bye when we get up here to Minnesota. But very impressed with his performance.
All right, talk about impact plays, and let's talk about special teams. And what I want to ask you about John Fossil is each week when he comes in, he's got these ideas of things that he wants to do special teams-wise after studying the opponent and so forth. It seems like he's got something every week. How many of those ideas that he has that don't make it to a Sunday?
Well, that's really what we feel good about and what's repped, and really what fits. I mean, we have a base menu we select from. It's very similar to an offensive game plan when you put together the deceptives and trick plays. So it's really you're looking to call those particular gadget plays at a certain time, certain place, and the timing was right to call it, but more importantly, the execution was incredible. I mean, I can't say enough about Cedric. When, obviously seeing it live, it was a great football play. But when you watch it on the video, just to see him step to his right and in the throw back to CJ is couldn't be any better. So just the execution of the play, real credit to the players. But John does a tremendous job and brings the energy and his expertise every day here at the Star.
And C.J. Goodwin, the execution on that play started with him feigning the hamstring injury. I'm wondering how that happened throughout the week. What C.J.'s reaction was when Coach Fossil says, "You want me to do what?"
Well, the funny part about it is he starts to fake the injury, but the punt was a lot longer than we anticipated. So you can see he fakes the injury, then he goes, "Oh, I better get going because I'm not going to be deep enough to catch the ball." So we got a pretty good laugh out of that on Monday morning.
Yeah, how about that play? All right, we continue with more of the Mike McCarthy Show in just a moment. Final couple of minutes here of the Mike McCarthy Show, powered by Reliant Energy. The bye week for the Cowboys, Minnesota Vikings next week. And Coach, of course, people talk about the bye week couldn't come at a better time, and it really couldn't come at a better time considering the fact that a Steelers player tested positive for COVID-19 and you had to go into intensive COVID protocol this past week. What were you hoping to accomplish this week, and were you able to do it virtually?
We're definitely going to try to stay on course. I mean, we had to cancel some things, obviously, now that we're in intensive protocol procedures. So, really, there was 3 focal points for the bye week for us as a football team. One was to get through the extensive self-scout, where you have time to really break it down to each individual and create the data and the resources to apply to the games moving forward. And a bye week in week 9 is a bit after 9 games is a bit of a challenge. So we have a lot of information, is my point there. And then the second focal point was we're going to do a process called Cross the Hall, where the defensive coaches coach the offensive players and vice versa. It's a 90-minute segment that requires a lot of time and energy that goes into that. So hopefully we won't have to do that virtually next week. So we're working through that, and lastly, we want to get a head start on Minnesota. So that's really what our focus is on during the bye week.
All right, and the games come fast and furious when you get back at it, of course. So with 2 games in 5 days, the Vikings and then Washington on Thanksgiving Day, and then a week later, the Baltimore Ravens on a Thursday night game. Coach, we appreciate it. Enjoy your bye weekend, and we thank all of you for joining us here on the Mike McCarthy Show. We will see you again next week when the Cowboys take on the Minnesota Vikings.
The Mike McCarthy Show, presented by Reliant, was brought to you by Ford. Visit your local Ford dealer. Built for Texas, built for you. Bank of America, the official bank of the Dallas Cowboys. Miller Lite, the only beer of the Cowboys. Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. And by NFL Game Pass. You'll never miss a game again. Enjoy full access to coaches' film and game replays from Week 1 to the Super Bowl. Subscribe at DallasCowboys.com/Game Pass.